Welcome back to X's and O's with Michael Macheris. In this video, we're going to be analyzing what exactly went wrong with the Saints. In my opinion, the Saints' poor play in the later part of the season has been overlooked by most members of the media and by fans. I'm going to break down what the Saints are lacking, how it led to their demise, and what they can do to get to the Super Bowl next year. In the first 12 weeks of the season, the Saints looked like an offensive juggernaut that was not going to be stopped, and Drew Brees was on his way to his first ever MVP. But then something went wrong, and I think a lot of that something has to do with Drew Brees. Now, I know a lot of people are going to call me a hater for this, but it's my honest analysis of Drew Brees. He played terrible in the latter part of the year, and I think his age is starting to show. But don't get me wrong, the guy is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I think one of the 7 greatest quarterbacks to ever play. The first thing that stood out to me with Drew Brees is his lack of a deep ball at this point in his career. This is the first play from scrimmage of the playoffs for the Saints. A Drew Brees deep ball is a rare sight to see, and now I know why. He's going to throw this deep ball to Ted Ginn Jr., who is running a skinny post. Ted Ginn doesn't have the best separation on the route, but Brees could complete it with a really well-led pass. Instead, he severely underthrows the ball, leading to an interception on the very first play. After watching this poorly thrown deep ball, I wanted to know how often Drew Brees tends to go for those deep shots. So I tracked his throws that were 30 or more yards down the field and came to discover he only threw the ball more than 30 yards a total of 12 times during the season, including the playoffs. If you're only going to be taking 12 deep shots in 17 games, you should be more efficient on those few throws. But Brees only completed 3 out of 12, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. To put those numbers into perspective, I used Philip Rivers as my control variable because he's also an older quarterback who has arm strength concerns at this point of his career. And he and Brees happen to be very close in throws attempted this season. Now, even though I don't think Philip Rivers' arm is what it used to be strength-wise, he has polished the accuracy of his deep ball more than ever, constantly dropping passes in buckets for his receivers. I'm not saying Philip is better than Brees, but it makes it a lot harder for the defense when they have to protect all parts and depths of the field. The Rams used their knowledge of Drew's unwillingness to launch the ball vertically and decided to drop safeties down to protect the middle of the field. This is why it's so important to be a competent deep ball thrower in the league, because great coaches will figure out your tendencies and use them against you. They will make you beat them with something you're not comfortable with. Now, deep balls aren't the only thing I've seen Brees recently struggle with. I feel as though his fastball has been depleted. Most times, especially on passes outside the numbers, he's not putting enough velocity on his throws. This clip right here is a prime example. Right after the interception on the first play against the Eagles, he nearly doubles down on it the very next time they get the ball. He's looking for Ted Ginn Jr. again, this time on a 10-yard out route. The timing looks good when Brees is in throwing motion. He is releasing the ball in the infancy of Ginn's cut to the sideline. Additionally, Ginn has about 4 or 5 yards of separation at the ball's release point. However, this ball from Brees just floats in the air way too long, allowing Rasul Douglas to undercut the route. He is very fortunate that this pass is not intercepted. Drew Brees is looking for his safety valve checked down way too often, and it caused him to miss some big plays down the stretch. On this play, Brees ignores a favorable matchup. The Rams are showing cover 2 man, and that's exactly what they play. The Saints are in trips left, meaning 3 receivers lined up on the left side of the formation. Brees knows Fowler is pass rushing, so he has to notice that one of the 2 guys lined up inside against those receivers in the slot is Mark Barron, a linebacker safety hybrid who really struggles in man coverage. He has virtually no shot at covering his assignment, Traquan Smith. He's wide open, and that's a can't-miss play at a decisive point in the game. The worst part about this play is he explores the worst matchup on the entire field for the Saints. Tight end Dan Arnold being guarded by future Hall of Famer Aqib Talib. I think Brees thinks that the Rams are going to bump safety John Johnson down to cover the middle of the field and play cover 1 robber. It's something that they were doing very often in the first half. So Brees' reaction to John Johnson playing lower than the other safety was to stay away from the middle altogether and look for something on the outside. But in actuality, the Rams were in fact playing too deep, and Brees outsmarted himself here. This play is a lot simpler than the last. Brees is going to try Ginn on a deep crosser, but simply throws behind him and the ball comes out slow. nearly intercepted. If he hits Ginn in stride on this play, it keeps the chains moving. If we take a closer look at this play, it seems more of a mechanical issue with his form rather than an arm strength issue. He loses his balance when transferring his weight to his front foot, and his hind leg goes from about 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock, which causes the trajectory of the ball to go slightly more left than he wanted it to. This very well could be a result of Brees trying to make up for his arm strength with extra torque from his legs, resulting in more of a baseball type throw. This is a missed touchdown from the same championship game, and it speaks volumes to Drew Brees' dink and dunk tendency. Michael Thomas is going to run across and up with nothing but green grass ahead of him. He's begging for the ball during the play with his hands up. Brees decides to dump it off to Kamara instead. He might be kicking himself for that one. With all that being said, Drew Brees is still a good quarterback, even at 40 years old. Has his Super Bowl window closed? The answer is hell no, especially with the team around him. Despite pointing out Drew Brees' late season flaws, there's an even bigger flaw that the Saints need to overcome if they want to get to the Super Bowl next season. And that's finding a receiving weapon on offense that could take the top off of an opposing defense. They have Michael Thomas, who is great, but by no means is he a deep threat. Their tight end Ben Watson is nothing more than serviceable, and during the season, there was never that second guy that stepped up to the plate for them. Tre'Quan Smith showed a flash here and there, but not much. And as far as Ted Ginn is concerned, the dude has some of the worst hands I've ever seen. A lot of teams just started to realize that taking Michael Thomas out of the equation and double teaming him was the best way to slow the Saints down, because they didn't have a solid second option. So in honor of reviving Drew Brees' deep passing game, I elect 2 offseason must-adds for the Saints at wide receiver. 1 for free agency and 1 for the upcoming draft. When free agency hits, I think the Saints should strongly pursue John Brown. He's a guy that really showed some pop early on last season and helped out Joe Flacco a lot, and we know what he can do in terms of stretching the field. If the Saints are unable to obtain the services of John Brown, and they want to get some young speed through the draft, the guy they need to get is Marquise Brown from Oklahoma. He's the perfect fit for what the Saints need right now to extend the Super Bowl window of Drew Brees. He's the best deep threat in the draft, has good ball skills, creates separation, has quick feet, and great hands. That's it for this video. Please make sure to smash that like button, leave a comment below, and please subscribe. Yeah!